Hello everyone, I have created a poster regarding the early childhood interventions. How well you know about the early interventions? Early interventions is actually a process to identify and provide effective support to the young children with the disability which are at risk or having a developmental delay starting from the birth until the 3 years old. So next I'm going to tell you some of the detailed descriptions about the early interventions program. Okay, the first thing that you need to know about the early childhood interventions will be what is the best place for the early interventions to be conducted. Early intervention service is the best to be conducted within the natural environment of the children. The natural environment here will be referred to the places whereby the children and their family learn, live and play. For example, the home. And another suitable natural environment for the early intervention service will be the child care site or the park whereby the children usually go. Why the natural environment is very important for the early intervention service? Because natural environment is the places whereby the children are familiar with. So within this natural environment, the children will be feeling more comfortable and safe to engage in the activity designed by the early interventions specialists. So what are the services that are usually provided by the early interventions program? The first one will be the family training and the counseling. So as we know, some of the family members might feel depressed when they discover that the children are having disability or developmental delay. So in this kind of situation, the family are going to seek for some counseling section whereby they need to know how they can help the children and what are the strategies they need to do and what they can do to help the children. And another service given in the early interventions program will be home visitations. Home visitation is usually very important for the early intervention specialist to know how is the development of the children and the trend of the children's develop. And the next one will be the medical and the health service. For example, some of the children might have some medical problem such as the Down syndromes, all these, they need some medical service. So therefore, the early interventions program can help them in this kind of service. And another one will be the different kind of therapy program. For example, the speech therapy, the psychomotor therapy and the pathology. All this therapy is going to help the children to acquire some basic skill if they are facing developmental delay in certain area. Depends on the needs of the children. And the next service provided in the early interventions program will be the service coordinations. Service coordinations is very important because the families will get the information about the resources and the financial support available to them. And the last one will be the early intervention program also provide the service to let the parents get some transportations and other related costs, which can be considered as the financial support for the families with the children having disability. So usually, who are the person which will involve in the early childhood interventions? So the first one will be the service coordinator or the case manager. Service coordinator play the important role to tell the parents what are their rights in the early intervention service and what are the resources that may be needed by the family members. And the second one will be the family, especially the parents. Parental involvement is strongly encouraged in the early childhood intervention program because the family members spend most of their time with the children and they understand the children's needs well. So this is very important to ensure that the parents can provide the information about the development of the children and the goal they expect the children to achieve through the early interventions program. And the next persons who will involve in the early interventions program will be the different kind of specialists, depends on the needs of the children. For example, the psychologists, pediatricians, the speech therapists and other specialists, depends on the needs of the children. Okay, and also the early intervention specialist is also very important because they need to design the suitable activity for the children with disability, so then they can acquire some basic skill. Last but not least, I also need to tell you what are the steps that need to be done if the parents wish to refer their child to the early intervention service. So the step 1 will be the referral and the parental consent. Referral here means that if the parents suspect the children are having developmental delay, the first thing needs to contact the early childhood official authority and tell them what are the developmental area and what are the symptoms that they found in their children, so that the official authority can identify the eligibility of the children for further service. And the parental consent in this case is very important because without the agreement from the parents, further service cannot be done. So after the service authority have identified the eligibility of the children, so they will assign an initial service coordinator for you. So this service coordination is very important to tell the parents about the rights during the service. For example, they have the rights to withdraw the children from the program if they feel that the activities designed for the children is not suitable. And also they are going to provide the parents with the information, for example, what they are going to do if the evaluations team come to evaluate the eligibility of the children at home. So after the initial service coordination, the next step will be the evaluations of the eligibility. So the evaluations of the eligibility will be done by a team of members which consists of the case manager or the service coordinator, the parents, and the different kind of specialists and the therapists depends on the needs of the children. So they will also conduct an interview sections with the parent to know more about the development of the children in the daily life. After the evaluations, if they found that the children is eligible for the early intervention service, an IFSP team will be built up. IFSP is actually referred to the Individualized Family Service Plan. These plans consist of the different kind of therapy and the medical and health service, as well as the program that will be designed for the children. Before they can come up with the plan, they have to conduct a meetings between the specialists and also involve the parents, so that the parents are aware of what are the programs that their children are going to undergo. So when the children are being exposed to a series of programs, every 6 months and every year, the IFSP will be reviewed, so that because we know that the children's development are changing from time to time, so it is very important to review the IFSP, so that we know that what are the things that need to revise in order to help the children in a more appropriate way. And the last step in the early interventions program will be the transitional planning. Transitional planning is very important to determine if the children, after they have passed their 3rd birthday, are they still need some further service, for example, special education, or they can just go to the normal school and follow the curriculum with the other children. So it is very important to have a transitional planning in the early interventions program, so that we can know that what are the things that need to be provided and what are the services that are needed by the children. So these are from me about the early intervention service in this poster. Thank you for listening to me. Bye bye.